Hi there, I'm Tracy Whitmore with Terradatum. Today we are speaking with Drew Peterson from Peterson Real Estate Solutions. Drew's company specializes in helping broker owners and managers execute their recruiting plans. Drew, your company has been busy even with the challenges over the last month. Can you tell us a little bit about the conversations that you've been having with brokers and agents?
Yeah, sure. So what we do is we make recruiting calls on behalf of brokerages all over the country. That's what we've done for the last about 3.5 years. And we average about 800 conversations every week. And we track our numbers very closely as we're making these calls, especially during this time, because one of the biggest questions we get is, should we be making calls? What are the results from those calls? Are agents even going to be responsive to these types of calls? So I'll share with you some of the numbers. First, just last week, our success rate, which is basically our appointment rate, the percentage of agents we speak with who agree to, at this point, it's a phone or Zoom meeting with our clients. And last week, that success rate was up 30% over the first 3 weeks of March. And the first 3 weeks of March had actually been even higher than in February. So on the success rate, the number of appointments we're setting, that's actually gone up. And on the flip side, on the do not call or on the complaint, because that's what a lot of brokers are worried about, right? They're worried about, am I going to get complaints? Even if I get agents who agree, am I going to get overwhelmingly negative feedback? And so we've been tracking now for the last several days the number of agents who say, why are you calling me during this time? Or don't call me. I can't believe you're doing this right now. We've had 2 people complain out of 781 conversations. So our normal do not call rate's about 1.5%. So we're actually even below what our normal do not call rate would be. And agents are responsive. I mean, they understand that we all need to be in business at this time. We've all got things that we have going on, but the calls actually, we've had more people tell us that they appreciate the call because it gives them some sense of normalcy. We've had far more of those than the 2 people who complained about the call. So what we've seen from a numbers perspective has been very strong, and we're receiving basically no complaints.
Great. And what do you expect going forward?
Yeah, so we expect that that's going to stay the same or perhaps even increase. And the reason for that is there's really 3 fundamental factors that we see driving what's going on right now. The first is from a simple practical standpoint, agents have more time to explore their options. And if they decide they want to make a switch because listing inventory is lower, that makes it easier for them to change. One of the biggest objections in recruiting is, I'm too busy to switch, or I can't take my listings or my pendings under contract properties with me. And right now, that's significantly less of an issue. So that's the first, is just from a practical standpoint, agents have the time, they have the ability to switch. The second thing is that some brokerages are simply not set up to support their agents. When the market was hot, agents could hang their license with a company. They didn't necessarily need or want a lot of support. Maybe they didn't want a brand or leads or whatever it may be. And so they chose that company when the market was hot. And now what we're finding is there are a large number of brokerages who aren't communicating with their agents, aren't setting up virtual trainings, aren't giving them the support that they need. And so agents are actively out there and looking for somebody who can give them that support. There's also companies that simply aren't set up to do virtual transactions. So you have right now, basically all transactions are virtual. If the company wasn't set up to do that, agents are understanding that they need to switch to somewhere that is set up for that. And then finally, we've got brokerages that unfortunately charge monthly fees. And that's a business model that's been around for quite some time. And the agents with those companies, if the brokers are if they're still continuing to charge those fees, agents are struggling with the idea of writing that check every month. And so a lot of cases, they're seeking shelter with a company that does not have either high or any monthly fees whatsoever. So that's really the second factor, is that there's just a lot of brokerages that aren't providing support, aren't set up for virtual, and unfortunately, they charge monthly fees that are now an issue for some agents. And then the third and final thing is that there are going to be brokerages who decide to close the doors. And the longer this goes on, the more that's going to happen. And so we have a really unfortunate situation in which agents who might have loved their company, loved their broker, they're not going to have the choice of continuing with that company. And so by and large, the companies that have been reaching out to them, if they don't already have a second choice, an option that they would go to in the event their company does close, they're going to be looking for that option. And so in the recruiting calls, that's also what we're doing, is we're giving them that understanding of, here's what other companies might be able to offer you in the event that something happens. And we never want to capitalize on or appear to be capitalizing on it. But the unfortunate situation is, again, simply that there are going to be companies that close their doors and agents will need somewhere to go.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. You mentioned capitalizing on a crisis, and I think we've seen that a lot of brokers have just halted all of their recruiting efforts because they don't want to be seen as that person that does capitalize on a crisis. What would you say to those brokers?
The way that we've always approached recruiting is that when we make these calls, we are offering to give something to agents, or we're offering them the opportunity to get something that they might not be getting with their current brokerage. So we've always believed that recruiting is not about sales. It's about reaching out to agents to see if there's something, if there's a better situation for them. Everybody that I talk to who opens a brokerage, the one thing they tell me universally is they opened this brokerage because they felt like they could better help agents than the existing companies in the market. And so right now, more than ever, if you believe as a broker that you can help agents, then what we believe is then it's our responsibility, it's your responsibility to continue reaching out to those agents to see if they need help, because we know agents need more help now than they've ever needed before. And so that's what we've never ever approached recruiting as bothering people or sales. We've always believed that there are agents in any given market who are not getting what they need from their current brokerage. And that could be any number of things, but they're not getting what they need. And so when we reach out, we're just asking agents, are you getting what you need? If the answer is yes, great. We'll check in back with you in a few months. If the answer is no, let's explore what we might be able to do for you. And that's really, in this time, that's why we believe that recruiting is more important than ever, because it's about reaching out to agents to see if they're getting what they need. And if they aren't, and you believe that you can provide them something better, why not reach out to them?
Great. Great. Well, thank you for taking some time to share your insight on the market and how things are going. For our Terradatum customers, we do have some additional trainings that we're launching over the next month that are really going to help you reach your recruiting goals. We even came up with a webinar topic of looking for recruiting and retention during uncertain times. So it's some strategies and ideas around how to be sensitive during this time, but still continue moving forward with your recruiting efforts. So I'm going to pause here, and we're going to share some contact information. So here we go. Drew, if you want to just tell people, how can they reach you if they have questions?
Sure. If you have any questions at all, we're here to support you. So regardless of whether you're interested in having us make calls or not, if there's anything we can do to support you, please feel free to reach out. You can go to our website if you want to we have a lot of content on there about recruiting, and we're going to be doing things like this frequently, updating people on what is the status of, on what the status is of recruiting. How are the calls going? Does the success rate change? Are we getting more complaints? So we'll continue to update the website. So if you want to get that free information, you can. And it's www.petersonres.com. If you have something specific for me, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm very responsive with that. And again, anything I can do, anything my company we can do to support you, we're happy to.
Great, thank you. And then just from the Terradatum side, if you have questions about BrokerMetrics or using any of the tools, you can find our webinar listing under Terradatum.com under trainings. And then if you just have questions and you want to email me directly, my email address is twhitmore@Terradatum.com. Thanks again, Drew. We appreciate your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.